meeting, which is the first order of business we have is a public hearing for our 2014-2015 budget. You want me to call the roll, please?
Childers, present. Lee.
Aye.
Bessler. Sullivan.
Here.
McGrath. Owen.
Here. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Mary Kalu.
Tonight we're having the public hearing both for the Maine Township High School District 207 2014-15 budget and the North Suburban Educational Region for Vocational Education NSERV budget. Both of the legal notices were published in the newspaper. The budgets both went on display starting at the beginning of July at the Administration Center here. Tonight we'll be acting on the NSERV budget as a joint agreement. Their budget needs to be filed by the last day in August. The District 207 final budget will not come for approval until September. That way it'll allow us to take into account any comments that are presented tonight during the public hearing. The NSERV budget has estimated revenues of $1,355,193 and expenditures of $1,348,590. They are funded almost exclusively through the CTEI Perkins grant. After maintaining a portion for their administrative program here, the bulk of the funds are dispersed to the 5 member districts of NSERV. District 207 is projecting in the tentative budget, and I'll say that because I know that we're going to have some changes for the final budget, a slight deficit, a surplus of close to $700,000. We would anticipate that in the final budget we'll still have a small surplus even after making the changes that we know we need to make. Part of the purpose of the public hearing is to give the public an opportunity to comment on the budgets that have been on display now for over a month. We would entertain any questions or comments from the public if anybody wishes to bring them forward.
Okay, there don't appear to be any. So if you wish, you may adjourn that.
Yes.
Okay. Then the public hearing is adjourned. And we will go ahead and proceed right to the regular board meeting of August 4th, 2014. And first we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jenny, roll.
Lee.
Aye.
McGrath. Childers.
I don't know if I say I have
This
this.
is present. Okay, we're here. Sullivan. Owen.
Here. Okay, are there any public comments of any sort? Okay, then we're going to move along to the Schuler Scholar update.
Great, thank you. My name is Carly Vance, and I'm the Educational Counselor with the Schuler Scholar Program at Maine East. This is Joanne Birch, the School and Regional Director for the South Region of the Schuler Scholar Program. I'm really excited to be here today and share a little bit with you about what we've been up to at Maine East in the past year. So for those of you who may be a little less familiar with who we are and what we do, the Schuler Scholar Program prepares high potential high school students to succeed at the most competitive colleges and universities in the country. And at Maine East, the typical Schuler Scholar is also the first generation in their family to go to college in the United States. Many of them come from low-income families, and some are from ethnicities that are underrepresented on college campuses. So to date, we have over 800 total Schuler Scholars and alumni. About 400 of those scholars are high school scholars. 64 scholars are high school scholars at Maine East, and we now have 5 college scholars from Maine East. The partnership with Maine East started in 2010, and we most recently added 2 new partnership schools, Zion Benton Township and Crane Medical Prep in the city of Chicago. So we invest in our scholars primarily in high school. You can see that the bulk of our financial investment happens in high school programs. You can also see at the bottom of the slide that colleges are investing in our scholars as well. the average non-loan college financial aid awarded to our scholars by the colleges they're attending is around $175,000. So just like the Maine East student body, the Schuler Scholars at Maine East are a pretty diverse group. One opportunity that we really do want to focus on this year, though, is taking a look at our recruitment of Hispanic students into the program. Maine East student body is about 19% Hispanic, but the Schuler Scholars at Maine East are only 3% Hispanic students. So we really want to take a careful look at our recruitment and outreach this year and see what we can do to make sure that we are connecting with every student who may qualify for our program. This year at Maine East, we had a record number of applications to the Schuler program. We had 57 applications. We accepted a class of 17 scholars, 16 freshmen, incoming freshmen, and 1 rising sophomore. The students who applied and did not get accepted, the bulk of those students were not accepted either because they did not meet our academic criteria or they did not meet our need criteria. This year we did notice a slight dip in the average math scores, both in reading and math, of the applicants to our program. We're not sure why this is, but in response to that, we did add some additional academic support and programming both in the summer prior to high school and then also during high school. So you can see this past year at Maine East, our group of scholars went from 64 to 52, so we had a 19% attrition. That's fairly in line with other partnership school attrition rates. We also pulled out data on the class of 2014. That's our very first class of Schuler Scholars at Maine East, and you can see that the attrition in that class was quite high. That's fairly typical for the first group of scholars at a new partner school, and we do anticipate that the attrition rate will go down quite a bit with future classes. Yes, please.
To what do you attribute the high attrition rates?
When you first enter a new school and when we first partner with a new school, I think there's a learning curve when we're understanding what does the information that we get about a student mean. What does a high GPA at Gemini translate to as far as success at Maine East? What do the grades, how much do the grades matter? How much do teacher recommendations tell us about how they're going to do? So I think that first year, we're figuring out, okay, what does the information we get tell us, and how can we predict their ability to be successful in a rigorous college prep curriculum in high school?
Were those attrition rates lower in the schools that have been participating?
Yes, yep. Sure, so you can see that, for example, at Warren Township High School, WTHS, with the class of 2014, that's a pretty long-standing partnership, and their class of 2014, their seniors, had a much lower attrition rate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had one question.
Yes, please.
As long as you're on this. I noticed that there's a lot more females than males
Yes.
overall.
That's
Can you
true.
speak to that just a little bit?
Yes, that is true. On our demographic slide, you can see that it's fairly consistent across schools that there are more women. We have one class, I think it's actually our sophomores, that are lopsided towards the male side. I'm not sure why we get more women applicants. We seem to get more strong women applicants than strong male applicants, and that's reflected in the students we select.
If you look at the grade distribution and break them out by quartiles, the top quartile in District 207 in virtually every high school in America is dominated by females.
Yes, but I guess what I'm asking is there anything, because I think in college now there's more women than men too. But I'm just wondering if there's anything that, we can try and do to get them more interested.
Counteract the fact that women are just naturally smarter than men.
That's what he's saying.
Well, that is interesting. That is definitely interesting.
Audrey has for years told me she can run both of your schools. So watch out, guys.
That's definitely something.
Well, I mean, all kidding aside, it's a
Yeah.
pretty big difference here.
It is, yes.
So
I mean, across the board, it's about 60-40
Yeah.
for us, across all Schuler partner schools. And I think that's something for us to be mindful of as well when we're looking at recruitment is what are the things that are maybe appealing or not appealing to our young boys, our 13-year-old boys.
Well, are they being weeded out because of their grades or because they're not interested? I mean, are they not coming forward to try and get in the program, or is it the grades that are keeping them out?
I don't have those exact numbers in front of me. We could definitely get those numbers.
But that was the point I was trying to make earlier. One of the criteria is the GPA.
Right.
If you look at our top 25% of students by GPA, they're just, in fact, 60-40 has a split, shows up in a million different studies on this topic with boys and girls. And that's about what the split is in the top quartile. And I bet if you went to our elementaries, the top quartile would be split about that way too. So the pool of available candidates is already skewed toward female because they do better.
I'd like to see the data to see what percentage of boys actually apply to the program.
Right.
Eligible boys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's data we could easily pull. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Okay, so we run many programs in the high school, but I'm just going to highlight a small bit of data about two of those programs. First, a math program and then a reading program. So ALEX is a computerized math assessment and remediation tool that we use with our freshman, sophomore, and junior scholars every summer. At the beginning of the summer, we administer an assessment that tests their mastery of usually the class they just finished. And so we're checking to see are there any holes in their mastery of the foundation that's going to be built upon in their next course in the following year. So they're assessed at the beginning of the summer, and then throughout the summer, they're remediating at their own pace, on their own time, online, on a computer. And so then our goal, ideally, is that the students would reach 90% mastery. You can see from initial score to final score that they make pretty solid gains. All three classes have made pretty solid gains last summer. Not quite to the 90% we'd like, but we're getting there. We're also working closely with the Maine East Math Department and the Gemini Math Department to make sure that the curriculum in our ALEX classes is aligned with the curriculum at Maine East and the curriculum at Gemini. So we're not testing them on things that they've never learned.
Are any children that are Schuler Scholars, children that did not attend Gemini?
Yep. Yes, we do have applicants, and we have applicants from a small number of applicants from Chippewa, Emerson, St. John Brebeuf. Usually a handful every year, a very small handful every year who apply from those middle schools. I think we have maybe one or two in the program, so it's a very small number. The vast majority are from Gemini. That's actually a point that I'm going to bring up at the end of the presentation. That's something we want to keep working on, to reach out to students at other middle schools as well.
I'm wondering if there are parents that have their children go somewhere else for junior high on purpose.
Sure. We also offer a reading enrichment program one-on-one for our 9th and 10th graders. To help us understand how our scholars are growing as readers, we administer the Nelson Denny Reading Assessment at the beginning and end of every year. So you can see, if I would direct your attention to the percentile data. I find that's the most illuminating data. Our freshmen, at the beginning of the year, were testing the 67th percentile, so they were outscoring 67% of students in their grade. By the end of the year, they moved up to the 85th percentile, which is a pretty significant jump, and most of those gains were in comprehension, so we're really happy about the progress they made this year. Our sophomores started out the year pretty strong in the 83rd percentile and still made movement up, particularly in vocabulary. Our juniors this past year had a really great year with the ACT. They took a pre-test in August, and their average score at that point was 26.1. After a couple months of intensive ACT prep classes, their actual average score was 29.5. And I would just point out that for the second year in a row, Maine East Schuler Scholars have the highest average ACT score of any of our partnership schools. Huge.
Wow.
So where are these bright kids going to college? This year, 78% of all of our Schuler Scholars are attending colleges that the Barron's Guide ranks as most competitive. And then the other 22% are attending colleges that are ranked in Barron's second highest category, which is highly competitive. The 5 scholars that graduated from Maine East are all attending schools that are considered to be most competitive by Barron's Guide. And you can also see that according to the Princeton Review Scale, the Schuler colleges are averaging very high. So here's the grand master list of all of the colleges that all Schuler Scholars class of 2014 are matriculating to. And here's the list we really are excited about. Where are the 5 Maine East Scholars going to college? Bates College, Brandeis University, Johns Hopkins University, Occidental College, and Yale University. So we'd like to end by just outlining some opportunities that we really want to focus on this coming year. First, we ask that the district and East continue to implement the master scheduling process that was used last year to maximize students' ability to get into the core classes that they need to be competitive at these colleges. We are thrilled to report that this year, every single one of our scholars got 100% of the core classes that they requested. No conflicts of AP against AP, everybody got what they needed. It was phenomenal. We want to continue to communicate with faculty and staff, including club sponsors and coaches, who our scholars are, what their commitments with the Schuler program are, and what the goals of the program are to ensure that there's mutual support of school and Schuler commitments. We also want to increase dialogue between department chairs and Schuler to ensure that all parties have complete and accurate perspectives of who these students are and what types of things impact their opportunities to matriculate to competitive colleges. We want to work with East administration to continue to market the Schuler program as well as Maine's other fantastic programs like Lyceum and recruit applicants from area middle schools including Emerson, Chippewa, St. John Riva. And then lastly, as I mentioned, we've initiated a discussion with Gemini about increasing recruitment of Hispanic and also African American students, and we're going to work with Maine administration to move that initiative forward. Can I answer any questions?
I'd just like to say, having had our first group of students come through there, when you see the types of universities they've been linked up with, it's possible that some of them maybe would have had that opportunity, but I doubt if all 5 would have had the types of matches that they were able to have. So we're excited, very thrilled to have the Schuler partnership, and look forward to seeing that list, that impressive first list, grow over the years. It really is a very, very impressive program.
I would agree completely, and also, even if they would have found it without the Schuler, they've got a confidence level that they wouldn't have had without the program. So it's a real good support.
If I may also add, I also want to just mention the students that were in the program, and many of them came back to us, and they are attending schools that they would not have heard of or even learned about if it wasn't for the community of the Schuler Scholars in our program. I've even come across some students that weren't in the program, but because they've learned about it and our collaboration with the college and career counselor, that we've been able to share our information, and other students also are going on to schools that they have not potentially even heard of before. So I'm excited that the community at East is all kind of sharing this information, and kids are benefiting.
Sometimes they just have to be asked.
That's it. That's it. That's it.
And we shared some data on the ICAP program, the College and Career Counseling program that we've partnered with in Illinois for the last few years. And as a piece of it, I think a lot of different things, East in a very short amount of time has gone from about $900,000 worth of college aid to just recently over 6.4.
2 years ago, we were $900,000 in scholarships, sustainable scholarships for graduating seniors. Last year, not 14 but 13, was a little over $4 million. This year was just over $6.4 million.
Yeah, it's a coalescence of a lot of things. Schuler's a piece of it, ICAP's a piece of it, better understanding at the building level for a lot of the counselors there. It's a lot of pieces, but working together, it's a very, very nice trend. So you should be about 12 million, 2.5.
Well, it's really nice to see that a program that's designed to help a certain number of students really does a lot beyond that, so thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
I do have a few copies of the presentation if anybody would like a physical copy. I saw some digital copies.
And I think we've got, I think every board members have it in the board book. If you leave them, we'll hand them out to anybody that wants them.
Thank you very much, and now we're going to move on to a Jumpstart update, if we could have that.
Dr. Laura Cook, who has been hired last month as a district career coordinator, is going to give an update on the Summer Jumpstart program, which is the program that Dr. Cook has worked with District 07 for a number of years, but beginning July 1, she's transitioning into a new position. I sent the board members a couple of video links over the weekend. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, please do. Related to that is where we're trying to go in the buildings and trying to be much more precise about how we advise students relative to careers in colleges. Dr. Cook is going to be integral in this, in that her job is going to be to find partnerships with businesses, industry, places like that where our students can have internship, apprenticeship, job shadowing opportunities, possibly work opportunities. Just recently, already since July, she's formed a partnership with ATI here in Parkridge. It's going to allow students who are going to become physical therapists to do internships. So it's already, we've already seen the benefit of it, and we're excited to see where we go from there moving forward. Dr. Cook, turn it over to you.
Just to give you a little bit of background about the Jumpstart program, it's funded by a federal Workforce Investment Act grant called WIA, and it's actually been in the district since 1998, and one of the fathers of the program, my husband Tim Cook, is here also.
It's actually 1995.
1995.
But who's counting?
Yes. You're right. And I always ask you that too. And then I've been here for the past 10 years, and it started as a summer-only program, and it expanded to all 3 schools for a while, for about 10 years at Maine West predominantly, now at all 3 schools for the past 10 years that I've been here. And it is serving kids that have to come from a low-income family, and they have to meet a barrier such as basic skills deficiency, less than 8.9 grade level equivalents, or they have they're a parenting youth, or they have a police record. Any one of those barriers will qualify them. And 90% of our program, we were contracted for 85 youth, and we served 115 this year. And over 90% of them are from the special education department. And what I did is we had funding for the summer program, and throughout the year they receive academic assistance, anything to increase their opportunity to become employable, as well as go to college. And we also offer scholarships as well to go to college. And I just took some snapshots over this past summer. But again, over the entire school year, that they've been completing paid internships, mostly with Lutheran General. And during the summer, we focus on youth that have never had an opportunity to work anywhere, so we kind of need a proving ground. So we partner with predominantly Maine East High School Building Services Department. And here are some of the things that we accomplished over this summer.
You have sound on that one.
No.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sometimes you can take away. Hot air balloon with those things.
has been primarily focused on special ed. One of the things I didn't say earlier is that in the new role, Dr. Cook will be working with really the full student population, the full distribution of students. So we're excited to see what kind of opportunities happen as a result of that.
Dr. Wallace, you and I attended that manufacturers symposium at Oten, and those employers were begging for trained help. Would this be a connection for Dr. Cook?
We've already begun meetings on some things related to that. In fact, a little bit of it was in the email I sent out this weekend. That is actually going to be a crucial role. It's why the position was so integral, we felt, is to interface with those folks. As I said, she's already found internship opportunities for students with ATI, has worked really between Tim and Laura since '95, 20 years really in this area, working with employers. This will just be a little bit broader mission because we want to expand apprenticeship, internship opportunities. Sometimes the best thing we can do for a high school student is help them figure out what they don't want to do. So it isn't always necessarily that, you know, someone's going to do an internship, and we hope sometimes they do an internship with a physical therapist and then decide this is really what I want to do as a career. But sometimes you figure out this is not what I want to do, and there's value in that as well. So, but it's about having someone committed with the experience to build those relationships with the employers.
Great presentation.
Where's the grants are coming from?
I'm sorry?
Where's the grants are coming from?
It's a federally funded Workforce Investment Act grant.
So annual budget, roughly, the grants are...
The budget this year was about $245,000.
But for next year, they actually said, based on all the outcomes we've had all year, they want to give us a 25% increase.
Good.
Yeah.
Which is actually pretty unheard of in state grant funding, and only out of 176 programs, 3 programs were selected to get that big of an increase.
And so one of the things, I don't know if we've done this already, but we actually have to replace you in this Jumpstart program, correct?
Yes.
Have we done that yet?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a person,
Yes,
okay.
someone who's been working with me for about 4 years.
Okay, very good.
Is there an organization in the city of Chicago might have something same or similar?
The Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership is the administrator for the funding, and that has the 176 partnerships, so it's all of Cook County, so we can serve actually anyone in the county. We focus on the township area. And actually, speaking to your manufacturing, we actually have partnerships through the Jumpstart program with the Manufacturing Career Internship Program, which several youth from Maine Township have already gone through. So definitely, manufacturing is big.
When you sit with stacks of paper or messages on computers, your message was so simple and so clear, it just moves you like, okay, makes sense, great, and that really is a big
Thank
part
you.
of it.
So the average students are from freshman to senior, or?
We can serve between 14 and 21 years, and we start with juniors and seniors predominantly, but once they graduate, we don't stop with them. We wait till they're stable in education and employment, so we might have a 23-year-old, we're not supposed to, but we wait until they're stable, because some of them have kids of their own. So we make sure that they have a job that is going to maybe turn into a career, or education, make sure that high school is so much different than college that we make sure that they're stable in college until we exit them from the program. And then even after that, we stay with them for a year, monthly contact, and if they're not ready to kind of fly on their own, we can re-involve them in our program or refer them to an adult program then.
So this is not only really a summertime one, it's kind of
Right.
continuation throughout
Right,
the
this
year.
was just a summer snapshot, but this is a year-round comprehensive program, definitely. Everything from helping them get housing, figure out daycare issues, transportation issues. We will physically ride the bus with you if you can't do that, or we will help you get, we'll give you gas money to tide you over until you get those first few paychecks.
So how many boys and how many girls?
Ours is
It's
pretty
pretty
even.
pretty much 50-50.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I
When you
would
go
say.
into populations like special ed, that's where you have more boys.
So do you have, most of them are from Maine East students, would you say, from 3 hours?
Right now, most of them are from Maine East, yes.
any particular reason for pursuing such, or how does it work?
Over the years, it kind of fluctuated. We still serve people from east, west, and south, but right now our predominance is east because we have a lot of staff that volunteer their time during the summer and in evenings to help support the program. Mainly one over there.
I'm housing east, that's.
Tim works in the Maine Special Education Department as a teacher. And it's just, there was a, Lutheran General is so much closer, and a lot of it was staff support of it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cook, and we look forward to hearing about your progress.
Thank you.
New position.
Thank you very much.
Okay, update from Superintendent?
Okay, I've got just a couple of things. I'm going to start first, and I don't know if everyone's had a chance to meet him, but David Alm is here with us this evening, if David would stand up. David is going to be our recommendation tonight to replace Michael Gallus, who left and took a job in Del Mar, California. And David is our recommendation to replace him as the District Director of Buildings and Grounds. Will be coming to us from District 300, where he does a similar job there. We had a very large pool of very qualified candidates, and from that pool and a couple of round of interviews, David emerged as our choice. He'll be a direct report to Mary Kalu, which sounds like a dream job. But no, actually, it will be. Mary knows the ins and outs. Too late now, Dave. Actually, the board hasn't approved anything yet, so we're right now.
This contract's technically signed.
Yeah. But we're looking forward to David's expertise. He's had a wealth of both private and school background in over many years. He did a couple of things in the interview that really stand out for a former English teacher who's also worked construction, but he used the word construct appropriately in the interview. He also used symbiotic and a couple of other words that I have forgotten, but he used them all appropriately. So that's going to be a nice addition to have someone who can throw words around like that and be articulate for the board. I know that they'll all appreciate that. So anyway, David, welcome to District 207. Hopefully we'll be in touch with you very soon. I know we want to get him out of here so he doesn't have to stay for the whole meeting, but we wanted to give everybody a chance to see David, and thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
A couple of other things. I've sent a couple of updates to the board members about the historic Maine Flyer project that we've got going on this year. In fact, a few of us in the room are meeting with members of the Des Plaines and Park Ridge Historical Society this week. Back during World War II, Maine Township students raised $550,000 in war bonds and purchased, Sean help me, was it a C-37 or C-47?
C-47 cargo.
C-47 cargo plane. At that time, it was Douglas Air Force Base, which now we know is O'Hare. In fact, some of the little Georgians around the school here were built to house the Douglas Air Force workers. The Historical Society wants to commemorate that. The fuselage of the plane is actually on an Indian reservation in Arizona. And part of what the Historical Society wants to do, in addition to getting the fuselage, so we may find a way to display that over at Maine East, hang it from the tower or something. But they, in all seriousness, want to do a competition this year with students, where students get to design some element of a commemorative plaque or a piece of art that could be housed at one or more of the campuses. We are going to have participation from all three campuses, because at that time Maine only had one school. So we had students from our footprint that exists now, and we want to honor that entire footprint with honoring the Maine Flyer celebration. So it's kind of a really cool event. I think this year is the 70th anniversary of the armistice, so it's going to be a nice event, and we'll keep you updated as we make some progress on that. One of the first projects is a digital story, so we've got a number of interviews with some of the original students from that time, speaking about the project and the commemoration, and have a lot of pride. It's one of the things that one of many things that make Maine Township different. The fact that you know, we've got that in our history, so that's kind of a cool thing. Then the last thing I'll say, and this is a follow-up on it, again, some Friday notes from probably 6 weeks ago or so, after a conversation that Barb and I had with Member Childers relative to marketing. And so I've actually asked Dave Beery to begin doing some research, which he has, on internship opportunities for marketing majors. One of the things that we're increasingly aware of and trying to be more adept and agile about is how we market ourselves to a new audience of people that don't get information in the way that many of us at the table grew up getting. And so we're thinking that if we can, you know, perhaps find a student coming out of college that's got some marketing chops, that they need internships just like everybody else, that may be a low-cost way for us to think differently about how we market the district. And so we're going to be working on that and hopefully coming back to you at some point in the future with some ideas, probably aiming toward maybe something in the second semester. So I think that's all of my updates.
Can I just
Yes.
elaborate on that? We had the conversation, and less than 2 weeks later, I came into our real estate office one day, and we had this counter, and it's just like there's going to be a party, or there's some kind of memo for everyone, and laying on the counter, District 214 had sent a letter to all real estate offices in the area saying, we're wonderful, we're great, you know, be sure you tell your buyers and your sellers how great 214 is, and that was their way of promoting their school. We're definitely going to be bringing that up a notch, so I brought it to Ken.
Although we are working on the letter.
Well, yeah, but I mean, just laying on a counter, I mean, that was their way of doing it.
So, and just briefly then on this, because it is, and those, I've taken enough calls over the years working here. Mary certainly sees it working in the real estate sector, but the quality of schools is still a key decision-making factor when people are buying homes, and so it's very important that we have that thought process about how we see and view and market our schools. The truth is, we've got compelling stories to tell about each of our schools that a lot of people, you know, by looking online at something, maybe won't get the full picture. So I think that's certainly an area that we can improve in.
I had mentioned to Ken that a seminar that we went to, it was a big part of the seminar that we went to was just educating the public on public education. And I mean, part of that is marketing, but part of it is just letting people know how strong our school system is and what we do. And I think that kind of dovetails into what we're trying to achieve here. So I think it's a good thing. Yeah. Even the people we're not trying to sell a home to, I think our parents, our community needs to know what we do here, because very few people know what we do in this room, unfortunately.
Carla, at that seminar, there was a complete disconnect between what the School Board Association was saying we are and what board members experience when they hear from other people.
Right, yeah, so it's all mixed in with that, right. Okay, that's it, you're done? Okay. We have a smaller group of board members today, but are there any updates from any of the board members today?
I'd just like to thank Dr. Hawken for being available to give a tour to a distinguished alumna from Maine West. I made the call, she took the time to do it, and gave him a tour, and he still remembers fondly his teachers, and he's gone on to become an optometrist. Came from Maine West.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Mary, monthly status of finances?
In your board packet is the June financial report. I do want to point out that this is on a cash basis, since this week on the to-do list is the accruals for the audit. On a cash basis, we ended June with a surplus of $5.6 million. Our third quarter projection was a surplus of $3.8 million. I believe that once we complete the audit, we'll probably fall somewhere between those two numbers, so that is good news. Next time you see June, it will be in the full accrual format as part of the audit. So I will entertain any questions anybody has on the June financials.
Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move along. Barb, do you have anything on instructional services? Okay. Is there an update on FOIA requests?
We've had 5 requests this month, each of which has either been processed or is in the process of being processed.
Okay, we'll move along to the action items. At this point, I want to mention, most of us in the room know that longtime board member Eric Lays recently resigned from the board to pursue a career opportunity on the West Coast. He did that effective July 29th. So he is not here today, no longer a member of the board, and we would like to wish him the best in his new endeavor and acknowledge his long service on the board. We do have a resolution, if someone would like to make a motion on that.
I'd like to make a motion that the Board of Education 207 adopt a resolution expressing its appreciation and commendation of the services of Eric Lays as a 13-year member of the Board of Education and recognize him as a master board member.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. So, do we take a vote on that? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Childers? Aye. Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye.
And okay, record reflect Mr. Lays is unanimous.
Is what?
He likes unanimous votes.
Unanimously. He will get a copy of that resolution. is that
Yes, I
right?
think we've got a couple signatures
Yes.
we've got to get,
Okay.
and we'll have to mail that out to Orange County.
Okay. All right, we'll move along to the consent agenda then.
I'd like to move the consent agenda 7A through 7F.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Lee?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to move along to item 8, which is the intergovernmental agreement. Kathy, you want to talk
I
about this?
speak very quickly, these are for students that we place at Northbrook in the alternative school. When Mary, Kalu, and I began 5 years ago, we were routinely asking the board to do a contract for 50 seats. We are down this year to 15 seats, so we've reduced by 35 seats in 5 years the number of contracted seats. In the event that we have to exceed 15 seats, there's a slight premium, but we'd rather bet on the trend that we've got, which is we're moving less and less placements at Northbrook, and we'll pay a slight premium rather than paying upfront costs for an extra 5 or 10 seats.
All right, could I have a recommendation regarding the intergovernmental agreement?
A motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, could you roll?
Childers? Aye. Sullivan?
Aye.
Lee? Owen?
Aye. Okay, item 9, another intergovernmental agreement. Ken?
These are special education students. Let's see, these are the hearing students.
These are students with multiple needs, significant needs.
Yeah.
So there are 6.
Yeah, there are 6 students, and this is, we contract with the now special education program, and we have for a number of years for services that we're not able to provide through District 207. There aren't many of them, but this happens to be a small group of very highly needy students that fall in that category.
Make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement.
I second.
Okay, is there any discussion, questions on this?
Where are they, mainly from, what area, West Side?
Could any of the schools, any of the schools over the years, there's no one place that they come from. We've had students from each of the 3 schools in this program.
I think this is the one I had a couple of little modifications on. Okay,
Yeah.
very much. They were just some clarifications. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye. Okay, item 10, this is the District Title I plan. Barb?
Yes, we're required to bring these plans before you tonight. I think the important thing to notice is the enormous work that under Mike Pressler's leadership has been accomplished at Mays. As they've embarked on a 4-month self-assessment study in order to shift their use of Title I funds from being targeted to school-wide. That's going to give them more flexibility, and they're going to be able to target
3 or 4 very important priorities for helping their students. First one being curriculum articulation. Another piece of that is improving the communication with parents and becoming more transparent and making better connections there. Third one being developing an intervention that's really an alternative to suspension and capturing the kids even in after school hours so that they can do some credit recovery programs. It was an enormous project to take care of this. Don Marzoff was instrumental in it as well. And we also worked with Kathy Berlinger Augustus, a consultant we've used in the past to help us through this. So their particular Title I documentation is there for your approval. And we also have the district Title I Rising Star documentation that we've now added in some of the required elements. We don't have our final allotments on monies that we can use in the district and at Maine East and Maine West, but in September we'll get those final dollar amounts and probably come back to you with an update on that.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the district Title I plan?
Second.
Is there any discussion, questions for Barb? Okay, we'll take the roll.
Lee. Sullivan. Childers. Owen.
Aye. Okay, we have another intergovernmental agreement. This is on the Displays TIF. Mary?
Earlier this year, the city of Des Plaines approached us to see if they provided us with information on taking the existing TIF 6 and splitting it into TIF 6 remaining and a new TIF, TIF 7. They shared with us some of their financial projections and what a little bit of additional public funding can do and turn around that area. This area is at Higgins and Mannheim without, in my opinion, without some of the public improvements that they're talking about, that area probably would not redevelop. So we see an upside potential from potential TIF 7. This is a template intergovernmental revenue sharing agreement that is backloaded in terms of funding, which will allow them to pay off some of the bonds that are outstanding on TIF 6, because the 2 TIFs will be contiguous. And then once that TIF starts producing tax increment dollars, we will get a portion of those.
I will make the motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with Des Plaines TIF number 7.
Okay, is there a second?
Can I ask some questions before we dive?
Okay.
Okay, so Higgins and Mannheim were across the street from the McDonald's there.
No, adjacent to the McDonald's.
So towards
It's
Cafe
everything
Louis.
north.
Yes.
To the north.
So where Ace Rental Car is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So TIF 6 has fully ripened to their,
TIF 6 has a little bit more to go, but it's part of, it's where that Starbucks shopping
right,
center is.
which is rather good, no question about it. So how many more years left in 6?
Okay.
Ballpark.
Ballpark, they need the first 10 years, so probably about 12 years, 12,
Okay.
12
So
to
they're,
15.
they're more than 2/3 of the way through, or they're halfway through,
Halfway
the
through.
10th. And so now they're proposing to turn around and split it and develop the Ace Rent-A-Car.
Correct.
Because the hotel across the street is in Rosemont?
Is in Rosemont.
Yes.
Okay. And then, of course, the Horizon, the Allstate Arena is in Rosemont. So
Correct.
the other side of Mannheim.
Is Rosemont.
And Rosemont owns a piece of the TIF too.
Correct. The Park
Right.
District of Rosemont.
Okay.
Not the village?
No,
No.
The Park District.
because Des Plaines is the village there.
Yes.
No,
Park
Des Plaines
District.
isn't the village.
City of Des Plaines.
I mean,
My point
I think
is
it's an
the-
important distinction.
Well, but it's not in terms of TIFs. My point is the governmental entity that runs the municipality that's there is Des Plaines, so it can't be Rosemont at the same place. It can be the Park District, Park District's in Rosemont. Gotcha. One who runs the health center. It's pretty nice. Anyways, the point is that you're proposing on the paybacks here, where you're looking at 0% of the incremental taxes for 1 through 10.
Correct.
You're at 11 through 15, 25% 16 through 20, and 35% on 21 through 23, and the TIF fully ripens at 23 years.
Correct.
But what taxpayers should know is your right to incremental increase in taxes without this agreement is what?
Zero.
So therefore, 11 through 23, you'd be getting nothing out of it if we didn't
Correct.
get the agreement.
Correct.
And there's no intergovernmental agreement required to have for the city to adopt it.
And certainly no support required from the district either.
Correct.
I will second the motion to approve it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion, questions for Mary about this? One thing I had asked Mary about before was that this actually has to go to the village
Correct. And this
for
is
approval. You know, and they will have a public hearing in September, I think, for
correct.
this. And without approval there, this will.
Right, and the intergovernmental agreement at this point calls it the project known as TIF 7 because there is no actual TIF 7 currently.
What's the meeting on August 20th? Is that for this TIF?
On August 20th, I'm not sure what the meeting has. I know we have a joint review board meeting to go over the existing TIF districts within the city of Des Plaines. So every year, as a requirement by law, we get together and review the annual report.
The GRB would have to review a proposed TIF at that point in time.
Correct.
So if you've got an August 20th meeting on the rest of them,
You'll
proposed
probably be on this
7th
one
probably
too.
be on that same agenda.
Is there any more discussion, questions? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve?
And-
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
And
been seconded.
a discussion before the second.
Yes, so he did second it though, and we can take a roll now.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Lee? Owen?
Aye. Okay, item 12, this is an action item, this is the unserved budget. Mary?
This evening, we had the public hearing on the unserved budget. We are the administrative agent for unserved. As such, we bring their budget forward for approval by our Board of Education. This budget will be filed with the Illinois State Board of Education by the end of the month.
I'll make a motion to approve the NSERV FY15 budget amount of $1,348,590.
I will second that.
Okay, is there any discussion, questions? Okay, Jenny?
Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye. Okay, item 13, this is approval of bids and awarding of contracts. We do have one item here.
Table B.
We're going to table item B, the Autism Partnership.
Why?
There's some language that we want to work on between now and we'll bring it back in the September meeting. Some language on the contract. We may not need to use all 24 days in the months where we want to add some up to language.
So then I'll make a motion to table 13B till September.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Take a roll on the motion. Do we have to do a roll on the motion to table?
Now we can table.
Childers?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye. Okay, going back to the other items on, the other bullet points on item 13, I think we can do that in a motion. Items A, C, D, E.
I'll move 13A, C, D, E for discussion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Is there a second?
Jen, are you seconding?
Do a second.
I just don't want to be
And
the only one.
That makes me a little nervous here.
Okay, is there any discussion on any of these? Because we,
Well, first of all, my own discussion is, was that a voluntary second?
More like a third, but.
And she's got a house she'd like to sell.
Ginny, this would be if you wanted to ask any questions on any of them.
basically all these awarded contracts, again, do we have any minority contractors and possibility of any businesses, contractors possibly from main township area, any chance?
You can speak to my two on Archon. While I can tell you the individual assigned to the contract is not a minority, he is a district resident, so he is a taxpayer. Simplex Grinnell was an existing contract, that's a change order to an existing contract that was awarded to the lowest bidder earlier this year. and neither the primary contract holder or the sub who is doing this work are contractors from our footprint, but they were the lowest vendor and the lowest bid, as well as being contractors that have worked very successfully in the district. So while we certainly try and recruit minority and local vendors, in one instance, we are required by law to choose the lowest responsible bidder, and that's what we've done with the change order.
So you are saying all of these are being awarded to the lowest responsible bidder?
Well, Arcon is.
Oh, Arcon side.
Arcon side. Expert 21 I cannot speak to, but Simplex Grinnell was the lowest responsible bidder approved through a bid process. Their pricing in the change order is in line with their unit pricing that they bid. And we also then, for the directional bore, sought other quotes for a directional bore to make sure that the directional bore pricing we were receiving was competitive, and it was the lowest of the quotes we received.
So before Hank answers the question on Expert 21, in my notes to you tonight, one of the things I'm asking for is I'd like to know all the payments to Arcon for FY13 and all the payments for FY14, just so I can look at what's going on.
It's a reading program.
Say it again.
It's a reading program.
Excel 21?
Yeah.
But I just want to know, is it, Hank, is it the lowest responsible bidder?
Well, it's a resource that we have used curricularly for the last, I believe, 3 years, and this is just expanding that program.
It's an academic
It's an
support we've been
academic
using.
support.
You also
How are they
have
selected?
evaluation.
Pardon?
How are they selected?
We often trial vendors who have products, and we've used it with students, and so it's been a successful program, and based on that experience, which is a little different way to.
And so it's clear it's below the bid amount, that's why I would not have gone out to bid, so we'd find the lowest bidder.
And
But-
software, which is very
It's-
excluded from the bidding law.
It's exact same bid, yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't.
Not that we don't.
Yes.
I mean, many technology things we do go out.
Audrey's down
for
there shaking
quotes.
her head like, yeah, you bid that stuff, wouldn't you?
No, I'm saying Expert 21 is very good.
It's really good. So you're backing up on that play.
Yes, it is the appropriate curricular resource for us.
So you're not looking for Hank's job.
No.
Just Sean's
No.
thing.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Do you have a minimum or maximum 3 biddings, by the way, how?
Sure, state law requires any project above $25,000, any capital construction project above $50,000 to be bid. Under separate law, contracts awarded regardless of whether they need to be bid or not bid, in excess of $25,000 need to be posted on the website. We bring them forward to the board as the triggering mechanism for publishing them on the website. So you will see any contract greater than $25,000.
And there are a whole number of exceptions in the bidding statute, you know, sole source, computer
Correct.
equipment, copy machines. There's a whole-
Perishable items.
Yeah, a whole list of stuff that doesn't have to be, but lots of times it doesn't go on the page, we throw it out there for bid just to make sure we get the lowest price of it.
And a lot of times we make vendors compete just because then they give us a better price.
And they know that there's somebody else that won't fire them for not performing, that we can hire to turn around and do the job.
But Expert 21, like it says, this is less than 20,000, right? So does that still requires, I guess, the bidding on this particular case?
No, so it would not require bidding because it's software, it would not require bidding because it's less than $25,000. I'm not,
It's just a big curricular resource, so we
Resource,
just
so we
bring it
brought it
forward to
forward.
the board. Just, because anything that's big, we tend to do that.
yeah, we are on the side of caution.
Yeah.
When in doubt, the elected board members to approve it. I'll call the question.
Okay. Ginny? Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Owen? Aye. Okay, item 14, we are looking for a recommendation on the
I'm
use.
sorry, was that a group for everything but B?
Yes, it was.
Everything but B, yeah.
Okay, yes. Item 14. This is use of facilities at Main West for, I believe, the fire department, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
I so want to make a motion to approve this.
okay.
Move away.
I moved.
There you go.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Call roll.
Childers?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Owen?
Aye. Okay. We have a list here of calendar items, which goes over when school will start back up and the Labor Day holiday. Are there any questions or changes here?
No, the one thing I would just, again, invite board members who are able to and want to attend the opening day institute at Maine West on August 22nd, a Friday, starting at 8 a.m. We do have a keynote speaker this year. So if you're able to attend, please let me know. I'll make sure that we introduce all of the board members who are there. Not required, but if you are inclined, want to be there, we certainly would like to have any board members available to attend.
Friday, August 22nd, 8 a.m.?
Yes, yes. Maine West High School auditorium.
Oh, we're gonna-
Till about 10 o'clock, maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock.
But introductions will be within the first half hour, so you can come and be introduced.
Good point, good point.
Because Audrey
Speaks from his
will
experience.
have cones right out front, so you can pull in, park it,
No,
let me know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll introduce the board members right at the beginning, so if people need to leave, they can get out of there.
That's right, so that people can swim the course.
And we have one more, just a reminder, for the Employee Relations Committee, just a reminder that we have our meeting on this Wednesday, the 6th at 4 p.m. That's Paula, Carla, and Eric was on that committee, so.
So just Paul and
We'll
Carl
have our
right now.
quorum of 2.
Guess I have to be there.
Yeah.
That works.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other items or is there anything under this? Okay. Any public comments? I don't think we have those. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to go to closed session for the purposes of discussing imminent or pending litigation.
I will make that motion.
Sure. Okay, take the roll, please.
Childers?
Aye.
Sullivan?
Aye.
Lee? Owen?
Aye. Okay, we are now going to be in closed session.